What's the biggest money lesson you wish more people understood besides not saving enough money?
That's a great question. I think the biggest one would be...
Welcome back to Smarter Wealth. This is the podcast where we talk about real life. We talk about real change and how to navigate it all without losing our minds. So today we are so excited to join a very special guest, my husband, Dan Hummert, certified financial planner and, well, husband.
All the things.
All the things. Welcome. This is exciting.
Thank you, babe.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a really fun topic to talk about.
Absolute joy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about financial purpose and how we can help folks understand what it means to align their life with their money, because financial purpose might not be a comment or a thought that people have really had because they think more about savings or retirement or some of the tough things that come along with healthy money management. So let's think through that in a different lens, and let's put on a well-being cap or a more thoughtful lens on our personal finance and talk about what financial purpose actually means.
Yeah. So financial purpose. So it's really not something a lot of people give a lot of thought to. Specifically, they might think internally about what their money is going to do for them without necessarily expressing it. So having a financial purpose and expressing it or even putting it on paper can be very empowering. So let's define what financial purpose is. So essentially, it's the underlying reason or goal behind managing money. What's the reason for managing the money? What's the purpose? What is the ultimate goal? So we think about an investment account goal as an example, and we can think about, does that account drive growth within the portfolio? Does it drive income? You can't do both. It's kind of like driving with both feet. You can't get income growth necessarily. You want to have one objective or the other for the most part. But big picture wise, when it comes to purpose, I think purpose, when someone thinks through the concept, is going to help them provide motivation in life. It's going to give them discipline. It's going to help them think through key decisions that they make when they identify, what do I want my money to do for me? And I think that's my goal, my reason as a financial planner to flush some of those concepts out of clients, is to get them to communicate and really talk about, what do they want the money to do for them?
Sure. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're building this life, right? It's not about always working to make money. It's about making some money so we can live.
Yeah, and it provides stability and growth when they do that. So it gives them a framework with which they use to determine, what am I going to spend my next dollar on? How much of my income am I going to save? And it really gives them an opportunity to align their values with their money.
So how would you give someone some advice on how to start breaking down a financial purpose statement?
Yeah. Well, you want to think about what's important to you. So ask questions like, what do you want the money to do for you? Are you looking for a specific goal that you want to accomplish? Is it to just simply achieve financial security? Are you looking to find financial freedom? Are you looking to perhaps at the end of your life give a certain sum away to your children or beneficiaries, or just to charity, whatever that case might be? So those are some of the things that we talk about in a advisor-client relationship, and then also touch on a little bit of their fears, right? What are the things that are keeping them up at night and giving them a sense of angst that we can discuss, set aside, and then derive a clear picture towards what they want that money to do. And then, of course, it comes down to shaping an investment strategy. But that investment strategy is then part of an overall financial plan where those goals are actually identified.
Yeah. And the purpose is really the foundation and the core of it.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
So then it would be safe to say that you want someone to look a year in advance, 5 years in advance, 15, 20. Of course, you want to think long term,
Yeah,
but sometimes people just need to get started where they are today.
that's
And what does
right.
that purpose look like today versus 10 years from now?
That's so true. I mean, that's such a great point. We have those conversations. We
Yeah.
talk about what do we want to do within the next 3 to 5 years, the 5 to 10, 10 beyond, right? What are those financial goals for us that we want to accomplish together as a married couple? And then,
And having kids at home still,
I
right? Whenever
know,
you're saving for college
right?
and all the children's needs, or maybe you're a grandparent and you wanna help make sure that you're giving toward children
Yeah,
education. Um, those are very different times in life
right.
that you would be saving for and very purposeful
That's correct.
given other times.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about financial purpose and you talk about those goals will change in different chapters in life. I mean, your
Mhm.
goals and your purpose, if you are 20 some odd year old, just starting off, maybe newly married, don't have children yet, maybe you're living in an apartment and you're thinking about buying a home. Your whole investment strategy or your goals are different altogether than they
Yeah.
are if you're in your 40s or your 60s and you're facing retirement. Whole different, and you'll find that they'll change, right?
Right. It's not a set it and forget
No,
it.
no,
So if
no.
anyone has done this process, and hopefully a lot of people have, and
Yeah,
have a professional they talk to
yeah.
regularly, but even if they don't have a professional they talk to regularly, start with setting your purpose first,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
then get
Put it on
unbiased.
paper.
Hmm.
Put it on paper and then revisit it regularly.
Yeah.
You want to revisit it and make sure, do I still espouse to the same values and the same goals
Mm.
today as I did when I was, 3 years ago?
Absolutely. So many
Yeah.
things
Think
change.
about our own life.
Right. Values. I mean, values do change, right? I
Values
mean, let's be
change,
honest.
right?
Sometimes we want to believe that our values are our core, and that's what we drive by every day, or we are driven by every day, rather. But as we age and we learn and we grow, sometimes we are um,
Yeah.
become a little more open-minded to
Yeah.
things that we needed to learn a long time ago. So
That's
those
so
values do
true.
change.
That's so
Yeah.
true, Dal. And one simple analogy for most people listening to this, and they think about, gosh, I've never really given thought to purpose. What does that mean for me? Thinking of it in terms of an analogy like sports, as an example, would be a good one. So when you think about, okay, I want to, run a marathon, or I want to get in this shape, so to speak, right? I want to lose X number of pounds. Okay. You're thinking about what your future self would look like.
Yeah.
The same thing is true for your financial self. So you think, okay, if I want to get into shape to be able to do X or Y or Z, what do I need to do today? What
Yeah.
decisions do I need to make? Maybe I shouldn't be eating the certain types of foods. Maybe I should
Hmm.
be hitting the gym on a number of days, X number of days a week, right? On and on and on.
Training.
Maybe find a
Yeah.
coach to be able to help me, right?
Hmm.
That is probably one of the best parallels
Yeah.
to for a financial side of things, right? You might
Yeah.
work with a financial professional to give you that coaching or that guidance,
It
right?
takes endurance and discipline
It sure
also.
does,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you use that as a framework to exercise your decisions, right? To make
Hmm.
these decisions to get you from point A to point B, and they change when the environment changes.
So changes are inevitable.
Yeah.
So what are some of the big mistakes that you see in your practice that might be some warning signs for people to realize, ooh, maybe I need to take a step back and redirect?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would think that in terms of mistakes, mistakes are relative and they're
Mm,
different for everybody. You have to first
good point.
define, I think, what is a mistake?
Hmm.
What does it mean to make a mistake financially? Because there's no right or wrong answers when it comes to finances. I think for somebody who may have a certain level of financial education, looks at another individual and the decisions they're making, perhaps they might overlay, well, you might want to consider doing this a little differently or doing that a little differently. And they could look at whatever is being done as a mistake. So it takes financial education and literacy to really be able to, quote, identify what some of those mistakes might be. Now, internally, we probably all have a certain level of financial understanding where we can say, okay, probably shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that, right?
Mhm.
I shouldn't be living outside my means. I should have an emergency savings account established.
Yeah.
I should be regularly saving money from my paycheck. I should be diversified in my investments, on and on and on. I should consider an appropriate level of debt that I should not go
Mhm.
above. Those are some things I think would be the good levelers for people to view and
Mhm.
say, where do I fit amongst those key um, areas of
Yeah.
financial planning?
I know one of the things that I've heard you say a lot is money is a tool and it's not a means to an end. So when we think about sometimes mistakes people make, okay, granted, that is relative, but I think, and I probably have been in this boat at one day or another, is I feel like I just need to make as much money as I can. Things cost a boatload of money
Yeah.
and life is ticking right on
Yep.
up there, inflation and the costs of everything. And so there's this, if I can just make this amount of money, I'll be happier. If I can just make this amount of money, I can do these things. But as we've talked about, that's like the dopamine race, right? It's a hit
Exactly.
to, if I
Exactly.
get more money, I'll be happy then or when. But in your experience, that is not true.
No, there's so many studies that have been done about the correlation between well-being and emergency savings. And one outcome of that study is that just because you have an emergency savings level doesn't mean that you're enjoying financial well-being,
Yeah.
right? One would think, gosh, it's almost like if I made X, then I
Hmm.
would, quote, be happy. But really all that is it's just a false sense of security. If you look at those who have won the lottery, there's so many individuals who end up going broke, right? Because they
Yeah.
don't really look to that pool of capital as a tool. They look at it as a means to an end.
Yeah, I recall a study we were talking about that said lottery winners 70% go broke in a few years, or 1 in 3 declare bankruptcy within 5 years.
So true. So
5
true.
years.
Right. And why? I think it's because everybody comes from the standpoint, if I just had X, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
If I just had, if I made certain this amount of money, gosh, all my problems would disappear. But without the key financial education, without decent, financial planning,
Yeah.
retirement planning, savings,
Hmm.
it's just gonna just go through their fingers.
Sure.
And then you end up not there you do not find that sense of overall financial well-being that you
Hmm.
could have enjoyed if you had a framework around it. What's the money to do for you?
Yeah.
Coming back to that purpose, how do you
Right.
align your financial goals with a purpose in life,
Absolutely.
right? Because it is a tool. We can't take it with us. We're going to be when the good Lord takes us away,
Yeah.
it's going to go to our beneficiaries and others, and it's not
Hmm.
something that we can take with us.
So when we think about our natural desire to get dopamine hits, right, our brain likes to feel good. We like to do the things that make us feel good. And seeking short term success,
Mm,
right, is what we want. So to help counteract that, because seeking money and having that goal versus seeing an extra zero in your bank account isn't giving you the same feel good dopamine neurotransmitter
you're right,
hit,
right,
right?
right, right.
So to your point, it goes back to take a step back, realigning with your financial values. But I think another point or question that we've talked about too is how does that perspective align with being financially secure or financially free? So
Mm,
understanding
yeah,
the true difference
the
between
differences.
financial security and financial freedom, because winning the lottery doesn't make you financially free or give you financial security if you don't do the right things
Yeah,
first.
you might think it will. So then
Right.
you have this large sum of money, and then you go out and buy cars and houses and things, and it never really provides that satisfaction.
Yeah.
So money being a tool is not a means to emotional and financial well-being. It is unless if you have, I mean, unless if you have an understanding of where your well-being comes from. And let's face it, the Lord designed us to be in fellowship with each other and to find satisfaction in relationships. So for us to first have that emotional bond and connection is going to provide true satisfaction. Money can oftentimes get in the way and drive people apart from each other
Yeah.
in divorce situations because money becomes that center focus. So again,
The root
money
of
is
all evil.
money is that tool, and it's not the focus or the center. It's what that money will allow you to do. So getting back to your question about the difference between
Yeah.
financial security and financial freedom, major difference between those two. Security, we all end up with financial anxiety. I mean, I can tell you stories when I started a business years ago in my 20s where beginning as a general contractor, it was with another partner in South Florida, there were some issues at times when in the early 90s, the recession that was upon us caused a lot of struggles to find projects and to move on to that next one, right? So there's just some economic issues that we were contending with, and there was always a cash flow problem. And then we moved past that and grew quite nicely. However, that causes significant financial anxiety. So that is a security issue. For most people, it not being able to pay their bills, right? Not being able to meet the credit card a number, and then they see the interest compound on top of each other. That's financial insecurity. So I think some of the ways that people can really build up their financial well-being and financial security is just to set emergency reserves aside. Now, on the other side is financial freedom. So what's financial freedom? That is allowing your money to do the work for you so that it supports your lifestyle. That's freedom to do what you want,
Yeah.
if that is whatever it might be that you choose to do. But travel, take care of children, quit your job, or just serve in some capacity where you're not relying upon earned income.
Sure. That can feel very far away for a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? And for those of us that don't have multiple streams of income, we just go to work. We work our 40-hour week. And so financial freedom feels sometimes out of grasp.
Yeah.
But that's not true. It is in grasp.
It is.
It is completely
It is. And it's how you
capable.
define that financial freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also argue that retirement as the word is just overused. Everybody talks about, I want to retire. It's kind of along the same lines of people say, I want to win the lottery. Well, okay, you want to win the lottery, you want to retire. What's next? What's the real purpose behind all that? The reason behind all that? Some people like, I want to retire so I don't have to do anything. Well, that's not going to lead to a very productive life. I can tell you from a practitioner standpoint, I see a lot of individuals who just end up retiring. They don't do anything, and cognitively they decline.
Right.
Not just cognitively, but physically also. Right? You're just going to retire and sit on the couch, and you'll see your life potentially cut short.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's study after study about being in community. When you find a time in your life where it's time to slow down,
Yeah.
maybe it's the next step in your life. Retirement, right, is a subjective term,
It's a subjective
right?
term.
That doesn't mean, okay, I'm going to stop working and never do anything again.
Right.
That is the time when your financial freedom comes into place,
Yeah.
and it's going to allow you to do what's next in your life.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of things, because being in community is going to keep us healthy.
Yeah.
And you want the financial freedom to be able to live in that next stage and do whatever is going to bring you the most
That's
joy,
right.
right? We
That's
were
right.
watching that Netflix special, The Blue Zones,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things that I really walked away with, is that in every community across the world, these folks are within 5 years of being 100,
Yes.
and they are still active every day. They are living in community. They are cooking. They're playing music. They're singing. They're playing games. They're walking.
Walking.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's what
It's
we're living
it's
for.
not
We're
just
not,
the diet. Yeah,
right.
and they're in a community where they are finding support from one another, and it's not just nuclear family. It's
Yeah.
from people outside that
Right.
family and the community that are helping them. And
Right. But that's what we're saving for, right?
yeah,
Like that, when you think of the term financial freedom, that's the longevity aspect of building
yes,
a beautiful life as long as we can.
yes. That's a great point. I love that point. I love that documentary that we watched.
Oh,
And those people were those nearing 100, living past 100 from all walks of life in all different parts of the world.
yeah.
And it's not just the quote Mediterranean diet or
Right.
under the sun or wherever. It is a group of individuals who met all of the key attributes that you pointed out
Right.
that the study showed. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I
And
mean,
money was not at the center of it, was it?
no, no. In fact, in Japan, women, because no matter what part of the world you're in, women outlive men.
Yeah.
So women lived in community together, some upwards of 10, 12 women together, pooled their resources. They don't live in retirement
Right.
homes
Right.
or, a place for mom.
Yeah.
They are living together in their own home, cooking for each other, with each
Yes.
other.
And then sharing and enjoying the stories around the table, or
Yeah,
whether it's games, or
yeah,
whether it's just, history, or going to church together,
yeah.
or yeah.
So, not to be Debbie Downer, but in
Yeah.
America,
I was gonna
um,
bring that up.
1 in 8 women are going to get breast cancer. And that
Yeah.
is a very sobering statistic,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that we're faced with here in the States. And so, financial freedom for us ladies, that's a factor that we very, very importantly need to consider, that we have no idea what is in our future. And some folks today say, "Oh, I'll never ever retire. This is about going to Portugal next month, and this is about buying the fancy car and doing all the things because I'm never going to retire. I'll be able to work forever." But they don't consider sometimes our health
Yeah.
is part of that equation that
It's
is so necessarily a part of um, the equation that we have got to pay attention
It's
to.
so true, and that's why I love Smarter Wealth, and I love this movement, which is about empowering women and
Yeah,
and men too,
yeah,
of living a very healthy lifestyle. And finances, as we're talking about today, is just so important. It's the core topic, but let's not negate the other pillars of Smarter Wealth: the emotional and the relational, the mental aspects. And I think
yeah,
money can be, the heartbeat, because it's what allows us to do these other things
yeah.
around us. Having a purpose will allow us also to permeate into the other pillars, such as physical well-being. So
Hmm.
maybe we want to make a commitment to buying healthy foods,
Right.
right? Or cooking healthily for our families,
Hmm.
or we want to surround ourselves with people who get it,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. My favorite quote ever:
Yeah.
surround yourself with people who get it.
And I think that is that whole mantra is,
Hmm.
I think, living a life of purpose, right? To
Absolutely.
what you wish to accomplish while you're here while the Lord has you here on the earth. But I think you brought up some great points, that it's very important for somebody to take that lead within a family.
Yeah.
And
So let's shift gears. Before we wrap up, I think we need to leave our listeners with a couple of other action items
hmm
that they can apply today in their life. So, if someone today might not feel like they are on the road to financial freedom or have financial security, what would you say is one of the small financial habits that someone could start today that would have a big impact over
Yeah.
time?
Well, I'll tell you, again, using a story to share an idea here, what is the first thing you do if you go see a new physician?
And take a
Ph-
blood test
Take a
or
blood test.
give a family history. Yeah.
Exactly right. And so a physician is going to put you through a blood panel and get all the basic understanding of all the key components of what's going on with you. And this the same thing is true for a financial advisor. So I think the one thing that they can do if they seek advice from a professional or if they're doing this on their own as a do-it-yourselfer is to really take an assessment of themselves, an honest assessment. Let's start with your assets. Let's start with your liabilities. Let's look at what your expenses are and what your income is. What is your rate of savings? Okay, do you have enough savings set aside for an emergency, right? If you lose your job, if you're single, the rule of thumb, if you're a married couple, is to have 3 months worth of living expenses set aside. If you're single, it would behoove you to have 6 months. Those are, again, rules of thumb. They're not hard and stone.
Sure,
It's
but
whatever's appropriate.
and that's a start.
Exactly.
So
That's a
just
start.
start.
Right.
So big impact over time. Once you have that emergency saving, what would be number two?
Then I think it would be to make sure that you're setting money aside in a savings account, right? In an investment account. Capital markets are one of the best ways to build wealth over time. So if you're employed, take full advantage of your employer's 403b or 401k plan and set money aside. If you're self-employed, then open up either a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, a financial advisor, or a tax preparer can help you with that.
Okay.
And then make sure that you're putting money as a percentage of your income aside. A good 20% might be a nice rule of thumb. More if you can, but a percentage of income. I wouldn't worry so much about filling up all the traditional IRA buckets or the 401k buckets and then stopping right there. Those are just arbitrary numbers that are set aside by the IRS to allow you to set money aside on your employer's plan. I would instead focus as a percentage of your income.
Yes. Okay. Let's break that down just a little simpler because people can only save if they have a 401k plan through their employer. They can only save between $20,000 and $30,000 depending on how much they make.
Right.
That's not enough, folks. Right. So while that would be your first step or second step, but don't stop there. You still have to save as much as you possibly can on top of that.
That's right. That's right. And rather than getting into the details and the exact numbers for those plans and confusing, it's the as you asked, what are some of the things people can do initially? It's to save. Period. End of story. Right. You cannot consume a bulk of your income. And then the next thing is to increase your financial literacy.
Great. Absolutely. Learn, seek. Find a professional.
Yes.
And they're going to give you an unbiased approach. We all create our emotional attachment to money.
Right.
That's our made up story. So when we trust an unbiased professional, there's no shame in the game, right? They're there to help us where we are today.
No different than the doctor.
Yep. So find someone you like if you don't have someone already.
Or married to one.
It's my lucky day.
I love you.
I love you too. Okay, so just final two questions. So what's the biggest money lesson you wish more people understood besides not saving enough money?
That's a great question. I think the biggest one would be it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep. It is what you are keeping at the end of your earned income for the annual year, as an example. That what you keep, right? It's net of
After taxes.
That's right. That's right. So,
and 401k and insurance, all that comes off the top.
Yep.
Yes.
So that would be the big lesson.
Okay. All right. Final parting question, my dear. If you could go back and talk to your 20-something self, Mr. Entrepreneur at the time, what would you tell him today, knowing what you know?
You don't know it all.
What? Are you
Contrary to
serious?
public opinion and my wife's opinion, I don't know it all, right? Just
Yeah.
an extra heavy dose or sprinkle of humility and seeking counsel and wisdom from other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came from a family where my dear sweet father, who's deceased, did not necessarily find the help of other advisors. And that's one of the wonderful reasons why I decided to become an advisor and to help other people. And
Yeah.
it is sheer joy to work with people who are interested in seeking that advice, looking for help
Yeah.
in an unbiased fiduciary perspective, right? In terms of finding solutions that are in their best interest.
Yeah.
And if I were a younger individual starting all again, I think I worked with a broker in my 20s. And unfortunately, that broker was not necessarily an advisor, but a very good stock picker. And I would like to have had a more consultative approach
Yeah.
with someone who had a financial skill set to help along.
Great advice. Well, it's clearly your purpose. I see it every day. I see the way that you live into your work,
I
and
love
it
what I
is,
do.
it's beautiful. It is, I
Yeah.
can tell it's
Take it
beautiful
very,
to
very,
see.
very seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being
Well,
here.
thank
This
you,
was
Dom.
a fun conversation.
Yeah, as always.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you want to learn more about how to build a financial purpose statement, or if you just feel like you need to get started, you can visit us at smarterwealth.com. If you want to learn more about aligning your life with a financial purpose, go to hummertfinancial.com to learn more.